I'd like to now ask our keynote speaker, Sandra Murre, to come up. Sandra's got a very interesting background. She actually studied chemical engineering here as an undergraduate student, and then went on to found and is currently the president of Jordan Engineering. And I met her last May and was very, very impressed with her idea of what a company is and the role that it plays in society. So Sandra, welcome very much, and we look forward to your talk.
Yeah, I'm going to give you, this is basically my business card. Throughout the year, I get 4 or 5 calls. Usually it's parents that their children are deciding what they want to do. And then they say, oh, could we talk to you? Could they come see you? Could I send you an email? Could they email you, ask some questions? So I'll put this up at the end as well. But I completely welcome that because I love talking to people about how much I enjoy my career as an engineer and how much it's impacted my life, both my family life, my involvement in the community, and of course my profession. So you're welcome to email me or phone anytime. Okay, so when I started this presentation, or when they asked me if I would do a presentation, I'm not a public speaker. I did take public speaking as one of my fun courses when I was here at Waterloo because I like challenges and I wanted to get over one of my biggest fears. But I had kind of pictured 5 minutes, and I could completely do 5 minutes on how I ended up in engineering because it was a bit of a disaster with a happy ending, and that was fine. But then when they said 40 minutes, I went into a little bit of panic mode and and thought, okay, I'll do 5 minutes, and then we'll do questions and answers because you'll have lots of questions. It'll be great. And I thought, oh, what if you don't have questions? So I went back and talked to, had a bit of a contingency plan. I thought, how can I break it up? So what I've done is I have structured my presentation questions and answers, but I've put some questions in. And then I've also interviewed a few female engineers that I work with, and I have quotes from them that I'll read to you. And then I also went to Engineers Without Borders because we've partnered with them for years. And the topic that I was asked to speak on was engineering as a caring profession. And I thought, well, there are no more caring engineers that I've ever met than the people at Engineers Without Borders. So they've given me a few slides too. So if we don't fill the whole time, we have till 20 after 10. If we don't fill it with questions, we'll just keep moving through my slides. But at the same time, feel free to put your hand up or stand up and shout or ask anything because I'm happy to do more interactive conversations. So why is this day so cool? For me, I think this is huge. I put also known as how I discovered engineering the hard way. So going back, think back before computers. Maybe not the Stone Age, but I graduated high school in 1983. And of course, so then very early 80s, late 70s, I was the same age as many of you in this room. I didn't know an engineer. So it wasn't a gender issue. I didn't know any engineers. I didn't know what engineers did. I was good at math. So probably most of you in the room are pretty good at math. So I was good at math, and the only person I could really lean on for career choices was a guidance counselor at the school. So they pull you, I don't know if they still do this, but back in those days, they would pull you in to talk about what you're going to take in high school and what you could do after high school. And I remember they pulled me into the meeting and said, well, you're very good at math. What do you want to do when you're done high school? And I said, I don't know. But you're very good at math, so you could go to university. Well, that was the first time someone talked to me about going to university. Nobody in my family had gone to university, and it was kind of an unknown. It wasn't really encouraged. It was kind of expensive, and nobody knew what I was going to do with it if I did go. So that was good that they brought up university. The next line was, you could write math textbooks. But yeah. I don't know. I'm sorry, but I'm not cut out to be a prof. And I thought, it doesn't sound very exciting. And I didn't know what to say then. And so then in my mind, if you went to university, you wrote textbooks. And I know a lot of profs write textbooks, but there's so much more to it. And that's where the conversation stopped. I had a swim coach. I was a competitive swimmer. I swam for the Hamilton Swim Club. And my coach was also the coach for McMaster University. So he sat me down and said, you should come to Mac because I want you to swim on the team. Okay. And I said, well, what would I take? What would I do? He said, well, it doesn't matter what you take. You'll get a scholarship for swimming, and you'll just take some courses so you can swim on the team. I remember thinking, okay, again, this sounds like a lot of work, and I have no idea where I'm going. So I really didn't know what to do. So I left school. At those days, we had grade 13. So I finished grade 12. I graduated, went across the stage and everything. And then I started my grade 13, got about halfway through it and thought, yeah, this is a lot of work. I don't have the money to go to university, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it if I go. So I stopped. And I followed other people's footsteps. You know, somebody that I knew was selling real estate, so I tried that for a while. I've always been very entrepreneurial, so I started a business. I ended up working for about 6 years, and then came to a turning point in my life and realized that, yeah, this is going to be a hard life. You know, this is going to be a lot of work and very little reward without an education. I was swimming masters at that point because I was quite a bit older, and there were 4 or 5 guys on the swim team that had graduated from engineering and were working in the field. Then there was a friend that I had gone to high school with. He had also graduated from engineering, and we kept in contact, and he shared some of the work he was doing. So between those two, I got a taste of the work. And so then now I knew somebody that was an engineer, and I got a sense of the excitement of their job and how they liked their work. And yeah, they made good money, but the work sounded really interesting. So I thought, well, that's pretty cool. But they were all guys, and I didn't really click that that would be something that I would do. So the wife of one of these guys had gone to med school. And I didn't know any lawyers or accountants. Knew these few engineers, but everybody knows a doctor because you go to a doctor from when you're born. So I thought, okay, I could maybe try and get into med school. So I went down to McMaster and said, how does it work? Like, how do you get in? What do I have to do? And they said, well, you have to have a degree first. I said, okay, that's fine. Can I take an engineering degree? Because med school is kind of like a lottery, and if you don't get in, I don't want to do 4 years of schooling and still not have a good job. She said, well, you can't do engineering, but you could do something else. Why don't you do natural sciences or something else? Because I couldn't do engineering because I was a mature student and I didn't have my grade 13. So I didn't have the prerequisites to get into engineering. At 22, I went to high school. And I went back to full-time day high school. It's completely doable. It was a lot of work, a little awkward at times, but it's doable. So if you know somebody that's already kind of branched off and wants to cut back, they'll catch up. But you're always a little bit behind after that. In high school, they had presentations from universities. My plan was still get out of high school, go to Mac, get my engineering degree there, and then see if I get into med school. But they had a presentation from the University of Waterloo. And they came to the high school that I was at, Beamsville High School, and they came there and did a presentation, and they said the magic word. They said, co-op. Co-op. I had rent to pay. I'd been living on my own for 6 years then. So it wasn't like I could just go to university. All of a sudden, co-op was the answer to all my financial problems. And I loved working. I liked the idea of 12 weeks of classes approximately, and then a couple weeks of exams, and then 4 months of very well-paid, exciting work. Everything switched then. I was going to Waterloo. So then when you fill out your applications for universities, in those days you used to be able to put 3 down. Well, I put Waterloo, 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 because that was the only place I could go. I did the math. I knew that this was the place I wanted to be, and co-op was just the perfect solution. I did get into Waterloo, and I had a great time, and I finished and graduated in 1995 with a chemical engineering degree. But I didn't do it the normal path, and I thought I would share that with you, because that's why I think this day is so special. Whoever brought you today, chances are you have a parent or a friend or somebody that's an engineer, but I hope you encourage your other friends to maybe come next year, because the more people are aware of the profession, the more they'll be able to do the direct path and not be 6 or 7 years behind like I was. Okay, so I just want to touch a little bit on this. It's a little off topic for engineering, but you heard that I had to go back to high school. So I thought I would share with you today, in my opinion, and I work in the technology field, the only thing changing faster than technology right now would be you, because you're at an age where you're developing at a rapid rate. So at your age, to know exactly what you want to do with the rest of your life is not a realistic expectation. The other thing that is changing is industry. The jobs that you could apply for today, there was no nanotechnology engineering when I went to school. When I was in high school, in the grades that you're in, computers just came out. We had these paper cards we filled out with pencils, and then we put elastic around them, and we sent them downtown Hamilton to the Board of Education. They came back 3 days later with a paper wrapped around them. Some kind of error, had to go back and fix it. Like, there were no jobs building web pages, like there were so many jobs today that weren't available then. So the same is going to happen, maybe even exponentially more for you. So each year you have to kind of evaluate where you want to go. Or the easiest approach to take would be to say that my goal in high school, because I'm changing so quickly and industry is changing so quickly, is that I'm going to take anything that is a prerequisite for anything. So that when you get into grade 12 and you're done, there's no, now I got to go to summer school to pick up this biology credit because I didn't think I needed science and now I need science. Or I didn't take all my maths and now I have to go back to school and do it. You're set. So you can get into any program. And so if I could just stress that enough to you, that this is your opportunity really in high school, is to not close doors. Because you start with every door open. And each time you make a choice to downgrade one of your math courses or to drop a science course or drop an English or a language course, you're closing a door. Okay? So think of that when you're picking your courses. Still no questions, eh? I'll just keep going with mine. I've heard a lot of people start out in engineering and end up doing something else. I took my daughter to a science and engineering technology program at at Guelph a couple years ago. We had a great day, and one of the speakers said that it's kind of a shame that a lot of engineers and scientists end up working outside of their field. And I thought, it's not really a shame. It's kind of cool, because it means that when you get a degree in engineering, the world is your oyster. You can work in almost any field and be useful and productive and successful. It opens a lot of doors for you. And we still engineer when we're working outside of the typical engineering disciplines. Because if you think about it, engineering is nurturing. I mean, usually when parents call and say, what should my child take? I say, well, do they have a caring personality and are they nurturing? And are they good at math? So are they problem solvers? Because really math is solving problems. So if you think of any other industry like politics or business or banking, they could all use good problem solvers with people that have attention for detail but still track the big picture and that are caring individuals. There is some research that shows that executives from many, because some people will be waffling, they might want to go into business instead of engineering. So I just have a little point about that, because there is some research on top executives within companies that show that a large number of them come from operations and engineering backgrounds. They need to pick up some formal business skills, but they typically outperform business graduates who lack the problem-solving skills found in engineers. So again, even if you end up, you're not sure, business or engineering, I would still recommend doing your engineering degree. From my own experience, I have graduation this afternoon from my CMA. So because now I'm running an engineering firm and I wanted some formal accounting training. But it was easy for me to pick up a CMA. It took 2 years, and I did have to go to school Fridays and Saturdays every other week. But I could go back to school and pick up my business education because I had my engineering degree and could get into an executive program that way. A lot of the course content came easier to me because of the discipline that I had obtained through my engineering degree. It is not possible to go from a business degree, as far as I'm aware of, it never was before, and go part-time Fridays and Saturdays and pick up an engineering degree. Okay? So I thought I'd give you some examples. We're close friends with the CEO of a credit union. So he's a banker, right? But he started a bank pretty much from scratch and built it up over the years. And he's grooming his replacement. So he's got a guy that's been working with him for 6 or 7 years, and he's going to become CEO of this credit union. Why was he chosen? He's chosen because he's an engineer. Okay? So thinking outside the box, today you'll hear all kinds of bridges and technology and Canadarm and all kinds of things engineers could do. And if on the off chance none of those appeal to you, think even wider, because really there isn't a profession that couldn't benefit from an engineer. In my CMA class, there's a class of about 40 executives, and 5 of us were professional engineers. So I just thought I would give you some examples of what they're doing. 2 of them were entrepreneurs, myself and another fellow from Waterloo. There was a vice president of engineering and operations for a hydro company. There's a director of finance for a medical equipment supplier, and a director of corporate programs. Okay. Is a traditional engineering job all about drudgery, filthy conditions, wearing work boots? Come on, you wanted to ask that, I know. Is this what a female engineer looks like when she's at work? This is my VP of Operations at Jordan Engineering. Yeah, there's a lot more male engineers than there are female engineers, but today that's our own fault, really, because we're not choosing to go into engineering. It's like the best-kept secret out there. And I see it. We don't even get a lot of resumes from female engineers. I think there are significant advantages to females in the picking engineering as a profession. The first one is dead simple, and I hope this one we lose over the next few years. It's recognition. I can go to a GE conference on automation and controls. There'll be 400 people in the room, and there's not that many women. So I leave the conference. My goal is to make sure people know about Jordan Engineering, so that if they need help, they can call us for help. Everyone remembers me. You know, like you stand out. The other sales guys that are there, 5 or 6 people remember them. But 200 or 300 people know me and Jordan Engineering when I leave the room, because there's only 4 or 5 of us that are female. That's an extreme. That is not indicative of the whole profession. But in a sales environment, there are very few women CEOs, and there are very few women running engineering firms. So you get even a smaller percentage then. But everybody else is standing on their head trying to get some recognition, and it comes to us easily. Hopefully it won't come to you by the time you're done that way. I did ask Jane, the lady in this picture, what she would say to you about being a female in the engineering field. And she said, personally, I feel that being a woman engineer has been a benefit to my career, not a cause for additional challenges. And another woman we have on staff, Leanne, who I'll show you a picture of her a bit later. She's in her mid-30s, and she just started her family. She said, engineering in general has a lot of different options, which make it a great choice for university. Suffice to say, I didn't even know that a job like working at Jordan was even an option when I graduated, but I'm sure glad I found it. There are just so many options available with an engineering degree, and I think the opportunities for women are ever increasing. I look forward to a day when our gender isn't even mentioned anymore, because it just isn't an issue. Okay. So, a few other points about being an engineer, or a female engineer. It pays well. You can support a financially secure lifestyle, a nice house, a family, vacations, good savings. You can live on one income if required. And I don't mean that because you'd plan to live on one income. I mean, we've always done that in our household, so that if anything came up and one of us wanted to stay home full time with the children, we could. So that's all possible with an engineering degree. It's honest work for honest pay, so it's not a house of cards. The wages aren't inflated by any means, and we're not underpaid generally. Your career is built on a solid foundation, and it's secure. Engineering is primarily a service profession. Women tend to have an easier time cultivating their nurturing and caring skills, which makes customer service that much easier for them. At our office, we spend as much time on service training as we do on technical training. Now, that sets us apart in the industry, but we're constantly working on things like the 7 Habits from Stephen Covey or the Disney Way. Or we focus equally on training people to be sensitive and caring and good at service with customers. Engineering is well respected. They are a profession built on integrity, intelligence, and caring. They're doing the right thing, and they're doing it well, and they're caring about people. Flexibility to balance resources based on your values. Happy people live by their values. So my values are pretty straightforward. My faith, my family, and I like to be of service. So I've been able to set reasonable boundaries and fulfill and break my time up and feel like I'm balanced between all of those values. Making a significant contribution to a greater good, and just a good career choice. Okay. So what did I learn at university? I'm a chemical engineer working in an electrical engineering field. I did most of my co-op terms as an electrical engineering co-op jobs. I have on staff mechanical, electrical, chemical, systems design engineers. I hope I didn't leave anybody out. So I guess what I'm saying is don't get too stressed about the discipline that you're picking. Pick one, and you'll work with that one. And you might work outside of that field as well. I learned how to prioritize at university. I learned how to work as part of a team, because you can achieve so much more than you would working alone. I learned how to break large tasks down into manageable sized pieces. I polished my troubleshooting skills and learned to ask more questions. I learned the importance of details. I learned that I can't cram the same way in university as I could at high school, so I learned to be proactive. I learned organic chemistry is not for everyone. There are people out there with absolutely amazing minds. It is a privilege to sit alongside some of the people that you'll sit alongside in your classes because their minds are wired completely different, and it is just amazing to watch it work. Of course, I took a lot of chemical engineering, but I took a lot of other courses too. I took 10 business courses because I got the management science option. I took a lot of extra courses because during school you could take extra courses and there was no extra charge. I don't know if that still applies, probably does. But during work terms, if you took extra courses, you had to pay for them. So there were just a plethora of things that were fun to learn at university. And I thought, yeah, I could pick this and pick that and build my own knowledge base. When I graduated from here, I had a well-rounded education and I was equipped with the personal skills required to make a difference to any job. Okay, I'm going to go through these slides fairly quickly because they're from, they're about my company. But just to give you an idea of what we do, we're a little bit of a hybrid company. And again, because we're talking about engineering as a caring profession, one of the things that I've done is I've engineered a corporate architecture that is slightly different, significantly different than some corporations. And we have, as a company, we have taken some of the best features from a nonprofit organization and some of the best features of a for-profit organization, and we've melded them together to build Jordan Engineering. So we've been in business for 10 years. We focus on good service. We do automation and controls for industrial facilities. Our mission statement is to achieve synergy in each and every client, vendor, coworker, family, and community relationship. So for us, synergy means that if you worked all by yourself and I worked all by myself, and we could build 50 widgets each, but if we worked together, we could build 200 widgets. So it means because we're involved in something, it's more than it could have been if we each did our own thing. I don't know if it progressed all by itself there. There we go. Okay, so one of the things we do is we bring data from industrial plants, and power plants, chemical compounding, pharmaceutical companies. So data off the plant floor, whether valves are open and closed, temperatures in tanks, analysis on the contents in the tanks, and then we bring it up to the front for people to monitor, chart, make decisions. Some of the industries that we work in, and we generally work with other engineers that work for those companies. So rubber and plastic manufacturing, chemical compounding, material handling, metals refinery, pulp and paper, power, pharmaceutical. So again, all types of industries will have openings for you. We have a panel shop in our place as well that builds, basically it's a computer that's wired into instruments in the field. Okay, so you'll have signals that'll come back and forth letting you know if valves are open or closed. The computer is actually called a PLC typically. So this is the part that's most exciting. When my father-in-law tells people what I do, he says I make pictures on the plant that are actually live connected to the plant. So this is an operator interface, and from here somebody could see how much is in a tank, what the temperature is of it. They can start and stop sequences, they can open and close things. So it's a controls interface for operations. The tricky bits about building these kind of systems is really the time you spend with people. Okay, and a lot of people miss that because they have the technical side. So getting to know the people that run the equipment and the operations of the plant, understanding how all that comes together, and then understanding how to code it and program it and build the instrumentation is where we fall in. Okay, and of course it all starts with AutoCAD drawings or electrical drawings for those panels. If you're at all interested in what I do, the easiest thing is to go to our webpage, which is jordaneng.com or jrdneng.com. The nice thing I like about the industry that we work in is that every industry has automation control somewhere, and it's a growing industry, so it's not boring. You know, it's not like Once you're in with the power plant, that's all you're doing is power plants. We're very, one day we might be at a power plant, next day we might be at Nestle doing cookies. So it's quite diverse, and you do get to meet a lot of different people with a lot of different knowledge and experience. And there is some commonality in that the automation and controls has a standard foundation, but there's a challenge every day. Okay, so but the more exciting side, because we're talking about engineers and how they're caring. Okay, so this is how our caring nature comes through in our client service. And the big thing for us is our relationship with clients. So I wanted to show you this picture only because it's kind of fun. We had a co-op student from Waterloo, and she was working with us. She did a phenomenal job. And then we had Leanne, who I mentioned to you earlier. I read a comment from her. The three of us were working in the basement of my home at that time because we hadn't moved into the new office place. And I don't know if you can tell, but on the bottom left-hand corner, those are all penguins from IKEA. So those 99-cent little stuffies that come at IKEA. We had each of those penguins. We glued a candy cane onto it and then glued a little sign that said Merry Christmas from Jordan Engineering. And then we stuffed it in a little box with tissue paper and some extra chocolates. And part of starting the company was we sent those out to all our contacts. So 3 engineers at a table, rolled up their sleeves, got to work, put it all together, and did a phenomenal marketing campaign. It was 10 years ago. Today, I can still walk in offices, brand new contacts, people that we've never done any work for yet, but were on our list, and they'll have it in their office sitting in a corner because they hadn't received anything like that before. So as females, we do bring a different element to the marketing side of engineering and the caring side. A lot of people came back and said it was a really thoughtful gesture, and then because they could see the attention to detail, it opened the door for us to get in there and do some work. Our staff got together. We do 1/3 of our profits go to nonprofit organizations, and our staff got together and thought, it would be kind of neat to have, long after Jordan Engineering is gone, and long after we're all gone, to infinity and beyond. So the Niagara Community Foundation, by investing money in the Niagara Community Foundation, every year they have a distribution of funds that will happen to perpetuity. So they never touch the original money that we gave them, but they distribute funds to a charity of choice. And the office gets together and decides that. This year, half of it went to Engineers Without Borders and half went to the YMCA Strong Kids Foundation. But it gives you a sense of the heart of the people that are working at our company. The other really strong skill you get from engineering is project management. Completely different field from Jordan Engineering. Jordan Engineering got together 3 years ago, and we set up a retail booth in a mall. That was a project, right? Like we had to set up a cash register, inventory. We had to set up a display booth. We had to buy all the equipment. We had to staff it with 14 people. Like we didn't put our staff there, but we went out and hired people that were short on funds and looking for work before Christmas. So we brought that all together in about 2 weeks. We opened the store in the mall for 6 weeks. Then we closed it up Christmas Eve. And then we did that again the next year. So we sold personalized music CDs that teach children VeggieTales characters and Disney characters, teaching them about being kind and caring, but had their names, the characters actually saying their names. We did that to raise money for a women's shelter in St. Catharines. So the office really teamed together and pulled that off. But our project management skills is the only way I could imagine it happening. Like I can't think of very many people that would have been able to pull the hiring. We had to do T4s, we had to do payroll, we had to have inventory. It was a whole business that had to come together in 2 weeks, run for 6 weeks, and then close up again. So it was one of the things I was really proud of that the office came together and did. The other thing we did was, okay, so you saw the picture of Jane earlier, sitting behind the desk, not looking very happy. Jane's holding the bike in the middle of this picture. This is what Jane normally looks like at work. She's a wonderful engineer. And our office got together in 2007. We are a company, just to give you a sense of the size of us, we have 18 people today, but then we had 14 people, including co-op students. And we got together a team of 12 people to do the Ride to Conquer Cancer, which was a bike ride that started in Toronto, camped overnight at Mohawk College in Hamilton, and then rode to Niagara Falls. So it was a 220-kilometer bike ride to raise funds for cancer research. And each person that rides at the Ride to Conquer Cancer has to raise $2,500. So it's a big commitment. It's not only a time commitment because it's a weekend, but you had to raise a lot of money. So our team of 12 people ended up raising just over $35,000, and they did garage sales, and they sold flowers on the corners for Mother's Day. They did all kinds of creative things to raise that money. But most importantly, they spent the weekend together, and we're really proud of their accomplishments and furthered cancer research. Okay, so where am I today? I think there's a text going to come up. I just want to give you a snapshot of me. I don't know that I'm a typical engineer, but I'm certainly an engineer in the field and working at engineering. I'm happily married. I have 2 amazing kids. They're my best cheering squad. That's my husband and both children in the middle there. I have a great staff. I'm surrounded by amazing people. And yeah, we have good vacations together. We have the top left-hand corner is a 100-year-old schoolhouse. So we're a high-tech firm, and we're in a 100-year-old schoolhouse in Beamsville because it's important, I think, for staff to be able to bike and run and do things on lunch break outside. And we're gradually renovating it as the company grows. So for me, these are all things that are important to me, and I've been able to achieve them because of my engineering degree. Okay. So I'm not done 40 minutes, but it's 40 minutes about me is a bit much. So can you tell about some other engineers? I'm going to go through, and I have actually some quotes from 2 other engineers in the office. But these are my staff. So you'll see from their pictures, they're all different. You know, like they all have there's bouncy castles. They're riding bikes. They're doing all kinds of neat things. And there's Jane in the middle again. Our office gets together and does a triathlon once a year. And this is Jane with her family. We have a harvest fest once a year. And everyone comes together, and we usually do family pictures of all our clients and vendors and staff in front of tractors and different sorts of pieces of equipment. I'm going to read you a little bit about Jane. It says, these are Jane's words now. I graduated from university in 1986 with a Bachelor of Science degree in engineering. As a 4th engineer in my family, my father and I even had some of the same university professors. It was always obvious to me that the engineer's profession was filled with caring individuals who wanted to make positive contributions to the world, and who truly did make some contributions. I believe that every person has a talent, and that every person can use the talents to make the world a slightly better place. Those of us with a talent for engineering, with a talent for problem solving, for divergent thinking, for design, who care about the world, have the ability to make a great difference to the world for generations. I certainly care deeply about making the world a better place. Through my profession, I have been blessed with opportunities to create solutions that have made jobs safer for people, solutions that have made the world safer for people and other living beings, and solutions that remove drudgery from everyday life. And I've had a whole lot of fun doing it. Because of my profession, I have acquired skills that have allowed me to contribute to my community in a variety of volunteer positions. In university, I wrote for the student newspaper, and I was elected to the student council. Since graduation, I have coordinated a community food donation program, was director of my local community living organization, served as treasurer for my children's school council, volunteered with an Autism Society of Ontario, and was president of my local university women's chapter, volunteered in my church. As an engineer, I have the financial resources to donate to causes like Engineers Without Borders, World Wildlife Federation, Christian Children's Fund, and autism research, things that I believe in. So Jane, just to give you an example, she's our vice president of operations. She works half days so that she can spend more time with family and volunteering. So she's at the office every day, but for the middle part of every day. So she's found through engineering a niche where she can have the best of both worlds, especially while her children are young. Okay, so Leanne, the lady in the center there, these are her words. And actually, the very cute child in the middle of the picture, Leanne's on maternity leave right now, so she's off for a year, which is great. She comes in the office every Thursday and brings Kate so we can monitor progress on her very important project, which is Kate. The girl beside her is my daughter, Rosie. When Leanne comes back at the end of January, she'll come back 3 days a week and 2 days a week off. Again, she'll come back with a balanced workload so that she can pursue her profession, which she gets a lot of satisfaction out of, and she can spend time with Kate, which she also gets a lot of satisfaction out of. So Leanne says why I chose engineering. I had completed my kinesiology degree and was working as a at a physiotherapy clinic. I made a mistake highlighting this because the lighting's a little funny here. My original intent was to take physiotherapy after kinesiology, so I figured I would work there for a bit first. I found the actual physio work rewarding, but I didn't like all the other stuff that went along with it, and I didn't feel that it was what I really wanted to do anymore. So I did some soul searching, and since I had always enjoyed both math and science, thought perhaps I could do a master's degree in biomechanics. Unfortunately, I missed the deadline to apply for grad school, so I figured maybe engineering would be okay as well. I didn't really know much about engineering out of high school. I hadn't even considered it or had it suggested to me. Now, Leanne is 10 years younger than I am. So it's, again, it wasn't promoted. There wasn't a GoEngGirl event for her. But my brother was in the mechanical engineering program at Queen's, so I picked up more knowledge along the way. Although I liked math and science, it was the application of these things to real life that drew me in. My thoughts were that I could combine my kinesiology with engineering and do something biomedical. I took all the biomedical courses that were offered and did my fourth-year thesis with a professor who specialized in biomedical applications. I had every intent on working in the field as well. I was keeping my options open, though, and applied to many various job postings, including Jordan Engineering, and as they say, the rest is history. So that's a little bit about Leanne. Irv, on the left-hand side, these are two of our senior engineers doing the triathlon for our company picnic. The fellow on the left-hand side, he's in his 50s, and last year he took 1 day a week off to work in the community. Okay? So it's not just the women that are caring in the profession. I mean, he went down to 80% of full-time so that he could volunteer more. Okay, so the last little story I have for you is, that's my son on the left-hand side, so I've woven both my kids into this presentation. We did the Great Waterfront Trail Ride, which I would highly recommend to any of you looking for an awesome vacation, which is a bike ride from Niagara-on-the-Lake until the Quebec border. And my son's 12. I chased him the whole way. I was worried he wouldn't be able to finish it, but he's just like a rabbit at that age. You guys have so much energy. And he's demonstrating his safe riding skills right now. I was a nervous wreck. Okay, but he did awesome. The 6th day, he started the day with a flat tire, and we fixed it, and then he got another flat tire in about 5 minutes. So then the whole 250 people were gone, except for the volunteers, and one of the volunteers was an engineer who stopped and helped us, and we troubleshot it basically for us, found a metal burr in the tire that was putting a hole in the tube, fixed that, used our last tube, got on the road again. It was the windiest day, and it was 100 kilometers that day, and all the wind was knocked out of his sails because we're so far back in the pack, you kind of lost all your momentum. I wasn't sure how we were going to finish. I thought, oh, a lot of the younger people and the adults had ended up in what they call the sag wagon, but I knew Jonathan really didn't want to do that. This guy came along in not a road bike by any means. It was like a commuter bike, but it looked like an old bike from the war times. And it didn't look very efficient. And I thought, how is he ever going to do 100 kilometers on that bike? But it was engineered so that it had a bench on the back, and you could pop a couple pipes in, and then 2 people could sit behind him on it. Like it wasn't aerodynamic at all. He had cup holders on the front, and he was a guy, and I think he cut the cup holders off of a baby buggy, you know? Like it was, I remember thinking, oh man. We stopped at the brake, and I noticed his engineering ring. So, and he noticed mine, and so we talked about what we each did, and he was a software engineer. I said, that's kind of cool. And I said, what do you do? He says, well, actually, I quit my job. He left software engineering, and because he saw a need in the industry for commuter bikes and functional bikes, he had a plate on the back of his bike that said, cycling, the peaceful protest to the oil wars. And I thought, what a good lesson. But when he left software engineering, he's opened a bike shop in Hamilton that specializes in functional bikes, like bikes that you could bring extra people on or bring groceries home on. And I thought, well, that was really cool. And after we left a break point, he biked with Jonathan, and he had, for the next hour and a half, through the worst of the wind, he encouraged my son. He didn't know him, but he encouraged him. He biked in front of him and said, here, you draft off me, because if you draft off another bike, it's 20 or 30% savings in effort. He pulled us through to the lunch break. And because of him, my son today can go to his friends and say, I biked the whole way. Like he didn't cave and miss a piece. So you'll meet, and I think it was great that Adele said to notice, or I think Mary, you said it, to notice the rings on people, because look for them. Because you'll see engineers in the most amazing spots, quietly doing the most caring things. So that's a little why I wanted to share that with you. Okay, I just want to touch a little bit on EWB. I'm not going to go through the slides. We've partnered with them for the last several years. They are a phenomenal organization. When you come into engineering at Waterloo or any other campus, they'll have a campus program for EWB. But as an check them out on the website if you can. It's ewb.ca, and if you go through, if anyone wants, I'll be here for another hour. If anyone was interested in talking about some of the work that they're doing, I can do that. But I see that I'm out of time, so I will stop here. Unless anyone has any questions now that you've just been holding, waiting. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yes.
What if children or young ladies or boys have a view of being engineers, but the math isn't quite there yet, and the science or things like that? Where can they go and keep going at it until they reach that dream?
I struggle with that with my son's 12, and he struggles with schoolwork. And boys learn differently, right? Like it's not that he's not capable. I don't know if it's attention but we did the Oxford Learning Center for a while. We moved him into a private school 2 years ago because smaller class sizes. But what I found the most effective is we do homework together. So, I mean, if you look at my day, which is kind of cool, because I have a full-time profession, I'm CEO of a company, but I drop my kids off at school, I pick them up at the end of the day, and we do homework an hour and a half together at nighttime. Because some of them just need the one-on-one to get over the hump. So if you have somebody in your household that's good at math, to sit with them and help them do the work, explain it in different ways because everybody learns differently. The other thing is to find somebody a couple years ahead, because Jonathan, I don't know about your children, but my guy, he's got a cousin that's a little bit older, but somebody a little older than them, they look up to him, and it's still not their mom, grinding them to get the homework done.
So what about education? Like, it takes a couple extra years or courses, like, that's okay, right? Keep at it.
At high school, like if he does it to upgrade?
If you don't graduate from grade 12 with what you need to keep at it, you think?
Well, I think a lot of students are doing that now, right? Like they're doing an extra year because they're so young.
I think it's important that they get their high school degree, because just for later on, again, they may not want to go to university right away, but then maybe when they're 25 they do or something. Mm-hmm. It just, you don't want to have to go back to high school then type thing. So
no.
I would really encourage them to keep on and get the high school degree, diploma. So. Okay, I think we'll end it there just to get on with the other presentation. So thank you again very much, Sandra. That was great.
Thank you for having me.